understand something.
The thing that I like most about being a dad is that I see that I'm about to impact the world. What's up? It's your boy, Dr. Humble Dad in the building. And I want to say that this is definitely an impromptu type of conversation. And I have been talking to a couple people during the course of this week. And I want to share some of those things that I've been talking to them about and about what I've been learning about myself as well. So it's been good. Whether it's talking to young ladies or gentlemen, I've been under the impression that there is a need for individuals to uh, provide good conversation, but also some answers and direction, right? And I remember being a young dude and not really knowing what to do, what to say, how to necessarily approach women, not even think about things spiritually. I grew up in the church, but I didn't really have like this understanding of what that entailed. Even though I was going to the church every Sunday basically, and when I was really young, I remember going to church throughout the course of the day and in the evening. Then there was prayer service, had choir rehearsal, um, and then there would be different Bible studies throughout the course of the week. But not until I got into college did I see that I really didn't have a relationship with Christ. It was more so me going to church because my mom wanted me to go, right? So there was not a personal relationship with Christ by any means of the imagination. And that part allowed me to go into a lot of things that could have been avoided, really. One of the things that could have been avoided was um, the lifestyle that I was living, um, from women to being in the fraternity. Not that a fraternity is bad, but if you've been to college, you know all the aspects of Greek life. And so being in the Greek life, and I got into it early. I pledged my sophomore year. It was at the beginning of my sophomore. It was at the beginning of my sophomore year, I would say, because it's freshman, then or the end right there, that second part. So in college, depending on your credits, right? Spring '98, I put it to you like that, and I went in fall '96, and the big brothers that I had at the time, women were pretty much objects. It was like, who are you going to go get tonight? Like we go to the club or something, and it was more so not just about who you gonna dance with. It's like who are you gonna dance with later? You feel me? And one of those things that was interesting. One of those things that I look back upon, I could see that in my high school years, like I was not open or have the idea of how to approach women, because young ladies typically approach me. So I didn't really know what that was. And then when I got to college, I was dating somebody at the time, then we broke up, then I came back and I was trying to figure out what that looks like. But once I pledged, it was really different, because now I'm looking at my bros and I'm seeing how they are approaching women, and they are approaching women on a regular basis. Now, mind you, this is me probably at the age of 19 trying to figure out my place in just specifically in the dating world, right? Now there are other aspects that I can talk about, but I'm just strictly talking about in the relationship aspect. And um and so as I was navigating relationships, um I really never thought about being married. Right. I didn't think about being married because it was not something that was around me, as well as when it was around me, I didn't like what it was that I saw. You know, I really didn't like what I saw. And so, because of what was going on uh, in the lifestyle that I was living, I was like, this is better here because I don't really have to, I don't really have to worry about uh, anything as it relates to marriage. Like the marriages that I saw were very scary to see. Right, they ended abruptly, and they did not have substance. It was like mostly turmoil inside of those relationships. And then when it came to the aspect of trying to follow Christ, I didn't have an example at all. And then fast forward, right? I'm in relationships, in and out. I mean, I would have tenured relationships, uh, but they were not seasoned in being God centered. And so, as a result, I could see why a woman would want to be with me, or a young lady would want to be with me. But at the time, I just thought that they was tripping. You know what I'm saying? But what I found out is that I was a pretty arrogant dude, and some people may say that I am now, but I have a different arrogance because I honestly rock with the Most High. And so I'm in. So there was a what was that? I began to. I was dating my late wife Jen, and what happened was I had an epiphany. It just came to me out of nowhere, and I was like, man, I want to have kids. I may have been like 24. I think I may have been 24, right? 25, something like that. And I was like, but I know I want to be married though. I got to be married to have kids. Now, mind you, this is not what I was seeing, but this is what was going on and what I felt. You know what I'm saying? Uh, Shout out to you, Mr. Woods. Hey, I feel you. To some degree, I am arrogant, I guess. Hence the name Humble Dad. Somebody told me I need to change that name. Let me know what y'all think. So anyway, so I am in the season of understanding that I needed to be married in order to have kids, right? And so I broke up with Jen, my late wife Jen, because I wanted to find out if she was the one or who I needed to be with. What ends up happening was that I was not being led by Christ, and I just lost the idea of what I was supposed to be doing. Right. Fast forward, there was an opportunity that God presented to me, and I ended up going to India, and so I did not have to act. I had less time to act a fool because I was in a foreign country, right? And I wasn't gonna mess with nobody in a foreign country, because in my mind, everybody got a disease, right? At that time, I think I was 25. Yeah, I was 25, and so I just chilled, And but then I remember having a dream, and that dream was for me uh to marry Jen. I was trying to get my mind around uh God, and I remember writing in my journal, saying to my journal, really, God, only you can help me through and help me navigate through this situation of this lonely feeling. Also, as it relates to being married, who is it that I supposed to be with? I had conversations with other women while I was there, but nevertheless, God led me back to Jen, right? And so, um, and so even though my relationship with Christ was not on the level of what I would say that it needed to be in order to be a husband, when I got back, my pursuit of Christ changed. It was the year, I think it was 2006. That's yeah, 2006, early maybe early in 2006. What ends up happening was that I had went clubbing the night before, doing my thing, and went to sleep, woke up that morning with a totally rejuvenated mindset to be like, I can't do this no more. Like there's nothing about what I was doing was helpful to me pursuing wanting to be in a relationship or wanted to be married and wanted to have kids. I cannot explain it other than that is that I woke up and I didn't want to do what I did before. Now, did I struggle on my journey to get to that? Yes, I did, but I was uh persistent in trying to be better. One of the things I did was I started going I I was working at this company, and this young lady, she invited me to church. I finally took her up on her offer. She had worked for me, and she would always tell me, she would say, Lodge, shout out to Alicia Burley and Mr. Burley as well, Deldrick. You should come to church. And she asked me all the time. And I was like, nah, because these churches are not that good out here, right? Like as if I was living a life that would say, oh, okay, yeah, you look like you're in church. Side note, just because you go to church don't mean that you live in it, right? It does not mean that you live in it. Matter of fact, the best place to be is in the church so that you can get the healing that you need. You can get healed outside of the church as well, but as far as the nurturing, the growing, um, to your relationship with Christ, that needs to be uh, at a church with a Bible teaching church, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. And so, what ends up happening, I go to the church, Nacogdoches Bible Fellowship. Shout out to them, and the pastor at the time was teaching the gospel, and I was listening and understanding. Or I might have been going. I think I may have been going a little bit before that. Forgive me. I was going before that, but I was just going. Before I left for India, I was going a little bit. But when I was in India, I would read my Bible, but I was not so certain about how to maneuver through the scripture and things of that nature. And but once I got serious, this is what happened. I was going to that Bible. There was a group of guys. At the time, that was named Kingdom Minded Records, and that was Tim and Gabe and Edwin were part of the crew, and I had separated myself from my my fraternity, and so being separated from them, there was an anxiety of belonging that I did not have, and that I knew that I needed, and I knew that I wanted. And so what ends up happening is that I became friends with them, and I would go inside. I would go to meetings or Bible studies or just hanging out, and the challenge that I faced was that I had no idea of the word. I had no idea about the word. I just knew that I needed to know more because I couldn't be involved in their conversation. So that's another thing. Once God says, "Listen, you need to come back to me," you need to respond to that, and then after you respond to that, you need to get around like-minded people that are wanting to pursue Christ how the Bible says to pursue Christ, right? And so I'm in their group and I'm not understanding what they're talking about. And I'm like, I've been to church. Like I remember being in the church. I heard that story, but I didn't know it was broken down like that. I didn't know that I was missing building a relationship through Christ by reading for myself, talking to God myself, and building a personal relationship with him. Like that did not connect until I started going to the church, and then I started getting into the group. And so in that group, I was wanting to be spiritually led by Christ as well as the guys around me, as well as my pastor at the time, and Pastor Keith and Brother John. So I'm in this place of where I'm having a change of mind. Like my mind is changing. I'm married at the time, and right before I got married, my mind was changing to wanting to be sold out for Christ, and so that began my journey. That was 2007 where I got married, but right before that, in that 2006, I began to like develop a real personal relationship with Christ, which made me be a better spiritual leader. Because once I started pursuing Christ, Jen really kind of didn't really have a choice, because prior to that, she had asked me, years before, I was dating somebody else, and she was like, "Why are you with her? Is she a Christian?" I was like, "Yeah, I wouldn't date nobody that wasn't a Christian, even though I wasn't living it." So fast forward, she communicated to me that was one of the times that sparked her interest in Christianity, right? And so so in my journey, as I began to be led by Christ, my Jen's relationship also began to change as it relates to Christ, right? So fast forward, we're married and we're going through things, right? And if I had not had the mindset of trying to be like Christ, then the marriage, I believe, would have been different, right? Not saying that it's going to be perfect, but I think that it would have been a struggle. And I had just those don't know, and that may watch later, I had a good marriage. And as we both were pursuing Christ, it became really good. And then fast forward to now, I had, after Jen passed, I still had the ability to rely on Christ. Ability meaning that I was upset and angry at God, knowing that this was something that he had allowed. And so I knew that God still existed. It wasn't a point of where I was saying, because she passed away, that God don't exist no more. That wasn't my position, which may be some people's, but that wasn't my position. My position was like, God, how can I get through this scenario, or how can I maneuver through this scenario without you? And I need your help. Matter of fact, I was, when the moment began to be like, I'm feeling a need to have a partner or a relationship, or talk to women. I went out on a couple of dates, right? And then I was like, no, this is too much, because this is gonna cost money. I think I shared this somewhere else, right? Anyway, I wrote down, I told God, this is the type of woman that I want, and the only way I can get it is if you find her. And so we had a conversation, and it being Kendra. Didn't know that she was my wife, but I was not pursuing Christ in the way that I should at that time, because I was so upset at God, and I did not know how to navigate without being married, because that's what my identity was, that I was a husband and a father. At that point in time, I'm a single father, right? And so I did not know how to operate as a single father, as I look back on it, and I'm talking to you all about it. And so I was struggling in my faith, but trying to, that's what it was. I was struggling in my faith. Like I was saying and saying all the right things, but my partners, like they was holding me down and helping me through this. Shout out to Dwayne and my dude Dad. So like when I would talk to them about the struggles that I was having, they would encourage me. They would tell me, good. Like Dwayne was like, good, you're having a struggle. So now you got to figure out, you got to hear what God is saying. And how does that make you feel? What are you going to do about it? So he would challenge me in my thinking, right? He would challenge me in my thinking. And so with Dez was very compassionate towards me. And so as I'm dating and I'm talking to Kendra, I felt the tug of, I felt God telling me that I wasn't operating how I should. So he was like, you got to be married. You got to get married. And so um, the one thing that I had told Kendra, that was a deal breaker, is that, who my wife is going to have to go to church. You know what I'm saying? I'm not asking her to be a Bible scholar, but there has to be a willingness to be open to who God is, right? And there has to be a foundation of Christ, you know. And so, because I had, and I told her this, I had talked to another young lady, and she was not solid in the Bible, in the meaning that she was like, she didn't have a position. You know what I'm saying? She didn't have a foundation, shall I say. She had a position, but it was all over the place, right? But anyway, so I'm telling her this. I'm going to church, but at that time, me going to church, I was going, but I was only going mainly for the fellowship with my Sunday school class, and to get that some nourishment that I need. I struggle to go inside of the actual church house. I struggle with that. I mean, I don't, I don't think I went in maybe the last year that I was there. It was just an odd feeling to be in there. I don't know if it was conviction or was it just that it just felt different. And so I couldn't do it. Right. But nevertheless, so it was a moment of time where I'm wrestling with who I am, and I'm wrestling with God, is him telling me what I should be doing and what I need to be doing. And so we get married, and I'm like, okay, now I don't really have no excuse. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't have an excuse before, but now it's like, okay, I got to get back into my word. And as a result of me being spirit led, that on a continuous basis, one of the things that happened, Kendra got baptized before. She got baptized before we got married. She began to, not like she wasn't going to church years past, but she was going to church regularly. We had found a church home, and she began to go, and she enjoyed going. And she was going because she wanted to go, and that was that part that that's the important part of being a spiritual leader, is that women are designed to be led. We all are designed to be led in some regard, but men are leaders. They're good leaders and there are bad leaders. The men that are led by God are the better leaders. Why? Because he's listening to the one that put him in the position. And so if he's not a spiritual leader, he should not be, you should not consider him as an option. So that really means that you need to be an individual that you need to be an individual as far as women. You need to be like listening to God as well. You need to have some type of openness. Like if you're far from God, whatever that may be, because I don't think you can ever be too far from God, because he can reach you anywhere, because he's always there. It's just you turned your back on him, or we turned our back on him. But women, if you would just say, you know what, the men that I talk to have to be led by God. What does that look like? What is his conversation? What is it centered around? Does he go to church? Does he read? How does he operate on a day-to-day basis? What's his responsibilities? What does he do in the church? Does he just go and then come home? What do people in the church say about him? What do people outside the church say about him? I think it's interesting that there are women that want a guy to be moral, but he's not led by anything that consists of morality. Like you met him at the club, but you don't think that he's going to cheat on you. I'm saying I said that wrong. You met him at the club, He has, and then you think meeting him at the club, he is going to be. Now, mind you, some people have met their husband in the club. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just talking about on average. You meet your husband in a club, right, where all types of immorality takes place, and he's going there looking for. He's not going there looking for a wife. Men that go to clubs don't go to clubs to look for a wife. They go to clubs to look for women for a short-term gratification. Okay, so if it ends up turning into something, then that's what it is. However, his mindset though is his mindset that Christ is the center of my relationship. Is he having the conversation of like, listen, I was just out with my boys, but all in all, I want to be married. If the dude ain't talking about wanting to be married, why are you with him? If it's not in the part of the conversation. And women will tell me, like I've had conversations with women, younger and older, they will say, well, what about the man? Like, what's his responsibility? Yeah, he has responsibilities, but if he doesn't have to have any responsibilities and you still giving it up, what would make him want to change his behavior? Even in the scripture, it talks about the woman whose husband was not a follower of Christ, but because of her behavior, the man was reconciled to Christ. So women, you got to stop running from responsibility and stop just saying it's man's responsibility. And I'm telling you, if he's not spiritually led, he should not have the opportunity to lead you. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And men, if you are not wanted to be led by Christ, how do you know what a follower looks like? How do you know what submissiveness looks like and should be if you're not operating from that position? If you're not operating from the position of submitting to God, how do you know how she should submit to you? So I said again, if he's not spiritually led, he shouldn't even have an opportunity with you. Now, if you out here just want to be, spreading your legs so he can spread his seed, you can't be upset about the results. Because it's something that you chose and also something you allowed. I'm going to continue to say it. Women keep saying, the dating pool is dirty. Well, who created the pool? Who created the dirt? It's women. Women decide who goes out on these dates. What was the conversation before y'all went on the date? Why did you give him an opportunity to get your number? Which is possible. That's cool. You gave him an opportunity to get your number. But once y'all had the conversation, what was the conversation like? What was his mind at when it referred to the gospel? What was he talking about of biblical substance? Now, he had to quote scripture, but what was his line of thinking? What were you just blown away about the poeticness of his voice or the sounds of his voice and the poetic words that he had? What was it? How did he get the opportunity to be in your space since you say that it's so valuable? Because men are only going to do what women allow. Once again, men are only going to do what women allow. And if you want a quality type dude, you got to be a quality type woman. So, with that being said, hopefully you've learned something today. Because if he's not spiritually led, then you're wasting your time. And we out here. Until next time. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel. We in here. Deuces.
boy is dangerous.
Bad feeling about this.
You don't seem to understand something.
The thing that I like most about being a dad is that I see that I'm about to impact the world.